Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video. Norwich City return to league action this Saturday against West Bromwich Albion at the Hawthorns. Really excited, one, for football to be back. Two, really excited to be at the Hawthorns on Saturday. On a complete side note, I really enjoy this as an away day. It may well be for nostalgic reasons. It was my first ever away day with Norwich City, a trip to West Brom. But we always seem to, whenever I've been to the Hawthorns, we seem to have some fun, and more often than not, certainly the times I've been, we've come out with something as well. So hopefully, the same applies on Saturday. If you're a season ticket holder at West Brom, you're probably asking for refunds at this stage. In terms of value for money, when it comes to goals, it's surely the worst in the division. There's been just 3 goals, both for home and away sides at the Hawthorns all season. Most games ending 0-0, and those with goals have been 1-0. Either way, it is a story really of West Brom's season. I mean, you look at the league table; they're doing very well. They're 5th. They've got a very good coach in Carlos Corberán. They barely score goals and they barely concede goals. They have scored 16, which is the lowest of the top 10 clubs. They've also only conceded 9. I think only Sheffield United and Burnley have conceded less. So, defensively very solid, struggle to score goals. That's the story. A very strong midfield, Jason Malumbi and Alex Mowat. A great striker in Josh Madger, who has scored a large proportion of their goals. So just a really solid core, very well drilled. Will go about things in the Championship steadily, and I suspect will be in the top 6 come the end of the season. This is a very good side in West Brom, and one that Norwich will probably be grateful that they've got a lot of their players back for. Now, I am recording pre-Johannes Torup press conference, but one can assume that certain players will be back. Now, I'm hopeful that Angus Gunn will be back. Famous last words. Marcelino Nunez seems to be trending in the right direction, so hopefully he'll return. Onel Hernandez played international football in the break for Cuba and scored, and I saw did a delightful front flip after one of his goals. So those 3 I'm looking at. You've also got Ashley Barnes and Liam Gibbs, who granted will be fringe players at this stage, but Norwich just need bodies in and around the place at the moment, and this will be Kenny McLean's final game in his suspension. Could well pick up another game ban if he gets booked. I think pre-Christmas is when the kind of yellow card system gets replaced. So he's going to have to be on best behaviour from now until the new year. I spoke with Connor Southwell on the channel, and well worth watching that. I think I uploaded it last Monday or something, and it was a nice reflective piece going into this international break, and still a lot of what was said in that video still applies. So if you haven't already, go and check that out. That'll keep you amused for 20 minutes or so. And I think the overarching message from Connor, and he's a lot closer to the football club than I am in terms of seeing the daily kind of running of that. There's still a very, it's calm. There's clarity around the place. There is still optimism around the system and the flow and the kind of operations of what's going on. And actually, the recent bad run has been down, in the most part, not all, but in the most part, down to just a horrendous run of bad luck when it comes to injuries and suspensions. And condensed issues as well. Your midfield suddenly completely wiped out in basically like 24 hours with Kenny McLean, Marcelino Nunez and Anis Ben Slimani. We saw the return of Ben Slimani. Hopefully we'll see the return of Marcelino Nunez. Hopefully we see the return of Angus Gunn. And maybe if you can get a Hernandez back in the side and maybe a Liam Gibbs to just bolster that bench a little bit, suddenly the whole dynamic of everything looks very different. I know I keep harping back to kind of Watford at home, Hull at home, even Derby away. It was exciting, it was free-flowing, there were goals. Defensively, on the most part, we looked really sharp. And it's amazing how quickly that can change just down to a few injuries. And I think often in football, and certainly as fans, you're looking for what's gone wrong, what's the fix, who's to blame. And actually, there are certain scenarios, and I think Norwich are in a scenario much like that at the moment, where you just go, actually, no one's particularly at fault here, and time is the healer. Time is the fix here. And that's a really frustrating thing as a fan, and I'm sure as someone associated at the football club, where it's not necessarily fixable through inaction. It is fixable through the passage of time and waiting for players to return. Of course, during the period, the goals we've conceded at Preston, the manner of the display against Bristol City, the disappointing night at Sheffield Wednesday, there have been individual mistakes, and maybe Johannes Hoff-Torp will look at some of his decisions. The kind of downfall started away at Cardiff, and he will have learnt lots. He will have learnt about the way in which he coaches. He will have learnt lots about his second string, which of those players are fit to stand up for the first team and have actually put their hand up and gone, yeah, I'm good enough, here are my performances, this is why you should trust me going forwards. And I think actually that's probably been the biggest disappointment in this run. None of the players that have come in really, and I'm going to disclude Oscar Schwartau from that because I kind of already included him in that first team setup already. But the likes of Sorensen, the likes of George Long, and other players like that certainly haven't given themselves any credit in terms of being picked for a first team when all of the fit players are back. Norwich have from now until Christmas, this is going to be a really interesting period. One, because it's so busy, and two, it really starts to shape up in terms of the league table now. And I'm still a believer that Norwich, if they can nail the transfer window, keep some players fit from now until the end of the season, are well within a top 6 shout. That feels strange because going into this season, I think most people, including myself, were saying actually transition season, mid-table, we'd probably take that. The way in which the Championship is stacked up and the start to this season, I don't think there's any outstanding teams in this division. I think Leeds are probably the best. And then actually, if you look at it, you've got Sunderland, who are currently top, with Sheffield United behind them. Sheffield United has just been built on a really solid foundation this season. I'm sure we'll get top 6. Sunderland, I think, equally will probably get top 6. Leeds and Burnley, you expect to be there because of, one, the money they've got. I think Leeds are, incredibly well coached and have some good players. And then actually, 5th and 6th, West Brom, who I know I mentioned earlier in the video, said, I think we'll probably get top 6. And then you've got Watford in 6th. You've got Middlesbrough in 7th, Millwall in 8th, Blackburn in 9th. All of these teams are going to be competing for that 6th place. And I think Norwich are very much in that race if we can get things right. It was pleasing and equally slightly different to hear in the AGM from Mark Atanasio that there will be money in January. It's about identifying the correct players, keeping the squad nimble, but there will be money to strengthen, and I'm sure that is something that Ben Napper's really looking forward to, because actually the recruitment so far under his kind of reign has been one of kind of discipline and actually quite successful. The big money signing of the summer in Ante Cianats now has a huge opportunity to prove himself from now until whenever Josh Sargent returns. That's looking like the new year. So lots of games now for Ante Cianats to hopefully get into the flow of things. I still think there's something there. I like his kind of stature. I like the way he moves about the pitch. He needs to get more involved. He needs to score more goals. It's just the one goal for him this season. But there is certainly potential there. And in terms of backup strikers, I think he's one of the better ones in the Championship. I hope that he becomes slightly more central. And if it's Marcondes or Hernandez or whoever we opt for on Saturday out wide, Cianats is the one through the middle. I didn't like Marcondes as like a false 9. I think Cianats is a number 9. Let's get him playing like that. And, that's how Josh Sargent has played and kind of has thrived, not only under Thorup, but under previous managers. So hopefully if we can get Cianats in that role as well, then good things will happen. I think, again, my message, and it's probably a boring one, you're probably bored of me saying it now, but patience. Saturday, it'd be great to get a point, but it will be incredibly difficult at West Brom. Then it's a fairly favourable run. 2 home games in a week, Plymouth and Luton. I recall actually a couple of years ago, I think, in that promotion campaign under Farker, I mean, we're going back to 2019 now, there was a period where we had 2 fairly winnable home games at an important stage of the season. We won them both, and that kick-started the season. they're the dream runs really in terms of Tuesday, Saturday, both at home, both against sides who have been struggling this season in Plymouth and Luton. Then it's an away game to QPR, equally have been struggling. Then it's a Tuesday game against Portsmouth, again, have been struggling. So 4 of the next 5 games, Norwich will be looking at and going, we should be winning them. It's an important run. We could be sitting here on the 11th of December having just played Portsmouth going, oh my goodness, what's happening? We're now looking down rather than up. Or we could be going, okay, we've won 4 of the last 5. Playoffs definitely on. This feels like a really important run. We need players back. We need them back quickly. Let's hope that starts on Saturday. But I'm still a believer in this Johannes Hoff tour at Brain. I like the way that we're operating. I like Ben Napper. I like the players that we've got in the building. It's now just building on those foundations that have been set early on. I'll be at the Hawthorns on Saturday. Really looking forward to seeing some of you there. And then it's a big week at Carrow Road. Really exciting times from now until Christmas. And then let's reevaluate and see where we're at. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.